fan of Mass Effect and Dragon Age, you might have thought, wouldn't it be cool if they were in the same universe? Well, maybe they are. There are quite a few Easter eggs that prove that this could be true. Now hold on, I'm sure you've heard of one or two of them. Just let me make my argument before you dismiss it. In the Mass Effect 2 DLC, Kasumi's Stolen Memory, there is a Darkspawn ogre in Donovan Hawk's vault. No big deal, just an Easter egg, right? Maybe in the Mass Effect universe, Dragon Age is a popular video game. But maybe it's actually a petrified Darkspawn ogre. You can see in his vault he also has arachni, which to his knowledge are extinct. Why would he want just a statue of two random species? That doesn't sound that special or rare to me. Maybe he actually likes to collect preserved specimens of extremely rare and extinct species. In Dragon Age Inquisition, there are several Krogan heads that you can find as trophies, which implies at some point there were Krogan that landed on the surface and were killed, because they were assumed to be some sort of sport animal. Obviously, the Krogan can't communicate with the people in Thedas due to the language barrier, so the locals killed them assuming they were a new type of monster. And no, the Mass Effect in-ear translator implant would not work for languages that are completely new. Now, have you ever looked at the moon of Thedas? It's really big. Sort of unusually big if you compare it to the size of our moon. But maybe the moon of Thedas is not actually a moon. Maybe the moon is a planet, and the place Thedas is on is the moon of that planet. Compare the size of how our moon looks from the surface of the Earth, and how Earth looks from the surface of the moon. And now look how big Thedas' moon looks. It seems much more likely that Thedas is looking at the planet it revolves around. So what am I getting at with this? Well, in Mass Effect, there is a planet that looks exactly like the moon of Thedas, Klendagon, and it has a moon by the name of Presrop. This moon could be where Thedas is. This would explain why Thedas' moon seems so big, and it would also explain why Thedas' second moon, Saturnalia, is so rarely seen, because Saturnalia does not actually orbit Thedas' planet. It's actually another moon that orbits Klendagon, and the inhabitants of Thedas only see Saturnalia when its orbit comes close to theirs, which is once a year during the winter. But unfortunately, Presrop does not easily support life, so how could it be where Thedas is? Well, in the Codex page for Presrop, it says, Presrop's landscape is a nightmare of jagged, overlapping ridges and geological shock zones created by some ancient disaster. Some ancient disaster filled with a nightmare of jagged ridges? That sounds familiar. Solus. In the events of Dragon Age Inquisition and its DLCs, we find out that Solus is actually an ancient super powerful elf mage who wants to destroy the world and break your heart. Well, he sees it a bit differently in that he thinks he's saving the elvish people by murdering millions, even though he has a track record of all his plans literally blowing up in his face. I'm definitely not mad that he's doing this or that he broke up with me.
Because I am not a monster. If they must die, I would rather they die in comfort.
What are you talking about?
In any event, it is done.
What? Solus! I can't, alright. I get where you're coming from, but do you even give a shit about me? Stupid Fade nerd. So, it seems like a long time ago, maybe, Solus got his way. I'm not saying the world of Dragon Age is destroyed, I'm just saying that Solus got his way. In case you don't know, in Dragon Age there is a sort of alternate dimension known as the Fade. Solus wants to merge the physical world with the Fade world. If Solus succeeds in doing this, it would destroy Thedas as we know it completely and make a new world somewhere else, like in another dimension. So the world of Dragon Age, in whatever form it is in, is still there. You just can't see it, and the remnants of the old Thedas is what you see when you land on Presrop. So the events of the Dragon Age series might have taken place a long time before the events of the Mass Effect series. The scar on Klendagon was created about 32 million years ago from other events in Mass Effect. So there's our first hint at the timeline, sometime in the last 32 million years. But since there seems to be an overlap in species between the universes, here are a few more clues. As I said before, the Krogan heads imply that Krogan landed in Thedas at least once. So let's try to find the most likely point in time that would have happened. There is only one period where the Krogan were active explorers and colonizers. This was between the Rachni Wars and the Krogan Rebellions. After the Krogan defeated the Rachni for the Council in about 300 CE, the Krogan were granted all of the Rachni worlds and then some. But because the Krogan reproduced so quickly, they needed new worlds fast. So they started taking worlds that did not belong to them. This expansion ended at around the time of the Krogan rebellions in 700 CE. In this 400-year span of time could have been a moment where the Krogan tried to colonize or scout a pre-FDL technology world that was being monitored and protected by the Council. Whatever Krogan scouts went there got killed, and the Council probably put more effort into keeping Thetis' world protected from outside forces after realizing what happened. A similar instance happened when Council representatives went to the Yogg homeworld and were murdered, resulting in the Council banning any communication with the planet for a long time, as they were not ready to be accepted into Council space.
You're a Yogg, a pre-spaceflight species quarantined to their homeworld for massacring the Council's first contact teams.
It is also much like how the Protheans protected the Asari from the Ouroboros 50,000 years ago. So I would say that according to the highest probability of Krogans landing on Thetis, the events of the Dragon Age games happen about 1400 to 1800 years before the events of the Mass Effect games. But the description says ancient. From the perspective of the Asari and the Krogan, the destruction of Presrop is recent. The codex you read in the game is written by humans, and has many intentional errors due to the human perspective. An example of this is the misunderstanding of the Asari's concept of gender. In the codex, they are called an all-female race, while if you actually ask an Asari about that, they become offended that you imply that they are female when they actually have no gender at all or are monogendered.
I am not exactly a woman, Lieutenant. My species only has one gender.
Yeah, but you look...
But they are fine with female pronouns. No, they aren't. That's just how the in-ear translator works by finding the best suited words to translate to. They probably don't even hear the words she or sisters, but rather whatever word they have that is most closely related to the meanings.
Thank you for listening, Siha.
I think my translator just glitched. What did you call me?
Sorry to get sidetracked, I'm just one of those people. Incorrect or distorted perspectives being put into the codex is used on purpose in many Bioware games, especially in Dragon Age where events are described in completely different ways in the codex depending on what race you choose to play as. So to humans, the destruction would be ancient according to their perspective, especially if the Council decided to keep the fact that Presrop used to be a fertile planet a secret, so the humans would have no idea just how long the moon has been like that. My best guess would be that Thetis is or was on Presrop, in the Sentry system of the Hawking Edda cluster. Now I know that this probably is not canon, but it's fun to think critically with the information that you have. I encourage everyone who watches these videos to do the same thing with the content they enjoy, because it exercises your brain, and you might learn really useful stuff that you can use in real life.